Well, here we are. It is another weekly update with Alex, and it's the 15th of June 2024. Beautiful Saturday, as you can see, and which is quite nice because it's been raining the last couple of days. But welcome back to another Documenting the Journey. These videos are really probably 90% for me as I navigate the world of entrepreneurship and building a service-based business render studio and a startup property marketplace, townhouses.nz, just navigating and documenting the journey on the wins that we experience and can celebrate, the losses that we wrestle with and struggle with, but also just navigating the landscape of building a team, building value, and building a client base and everything in between. So if you're building a business, or you're an inspiring entrepreneur, or you've got a startup idea just burning in your heart that you want to launch, hopefully these videos can give you an insight on the day-to-day, the reality of running a business that can build, not only generate wealth, but also allow you as a business owner to release your team into their giftings, into their skill sets, but also release myself and my family, which is a big part of it, so that we can build a life that we enjoy and find meaningful as well. So this week, the main observation this week, I'll just get straight into it, is that we have released Luke, who was hired as our Melbourne, we've expanded into Melbourne as our Melbourne sales lead, but over the last week, he has now been, promoted to be our head of sales across Australasia, which sounds big and fancy, but he's taken on Melbourne market, but also now taken on our entire New Zealand pipeline in the market here. So every inquiry that we receive is now going to be going to Luke. And what this has done is it's done two things. One, as I stated in the previous video, if you haven't watched that, go check it out. I was wanting to essentially give Luke, as he's been 5 weeks in the role, just more exposure to customers, more exposure to our service, more exposure to the problem that we're solving and the value that we're delivering to, bridge a customer from their current pain of either not having 3D renders or having 3D renders from a studio that potentially adds more friction than's needed to a busy property developer's life, or they just want better quality for a feasible price. Whatever the value proposition is for the customer, giving Luke more leads, so giving him our New Zealand pipeline has allowed him to have more exposure to our ideal customer, which in turn has given him more confidence over our service, more knowledge of our customer and where they're at and where they want to be and how we can bridge that together. And so through that, it's given him exposure, more time in the role, more opportunity to be in that role and exercise and practice, selling to customers. But the other thing that it's done, which is probably the biggest win from this week, is it's released me from doing sales in like a primary capacity. And what that means is that my remaining role was probably about 70-80% sales, as I had earlier in the year offloaded or delegated my project management role, my client communication role, my team communication role to my wife, who is now our project manager, and that freed me up a whole bunch to focus on marketing and sales. Now, having outsourced and delegated a big portion of my remaining role to Luke in the sales arm, I'm now freed up to sit to sort of elevate myself and sit in a higher seat, and it's kind of like, I'm calling it the seat of growth. Because right now, the question that I'm asking myself is, how am I getting more leads? How am I exposing the company to more influence, more partnerships, more audiences, more platforms, so that we can generate more leads? How this is different is before, I was asking the same question, but then I was also asking the question, okay, now how am I selling? How am I converting those leads? And before that, I was doing, how do I get leads? How do I sell these leads? And then how do I deliver a service to these leads? But now that we obviously have a team of artists, about 7 3D artists who I've delegated delivery to, onboarding, management, and retention I've delegated to Hannah, and now sales being delegated to Luke allows me to truly sit in the seat of growth of how is the company being exposed to the market in a greater way, how are we building partnerships to open up into new, warmer lead pools with, co-labored or co-partnered influence, and how we just generating more leads so that this, as it comes down the stream, as it comes down the funnel, the business can continue to grow. And the that's a massive win that I wanted to celebrate on here. But the biggest observation from that I'm learning as a leader, as a business owner, is that the more I release control, the more I actually hand over control in the pieces of my business, the more control I actually gain back. And I'll explain that a bit better, is that as a business owner, especially when you start out, you're in control of everything, or you think you are. You're in control of delivery, you're in control of onboarding, you're in control of customer support, you're in control of training, you're in control of marketing, sales, and just making sure that the business stays afloat, right? And so you're in control of all that stuff, but because you're in control of so much, you actually don't have control. You're actually in control of very little in terms of the trajectory of your business, because you're so involved in your business that you've got no space to work on it. And now that I'm handed over control to my artists, handing over control of project management and client retention to Hannah and accounts, handing over now this big piece of sales, of the conversion of our pipeline to Luke, I now have given control, but actually gained control of the business in return, because now I have a team working for me. No longer am I doing sort of 5 different roles 20% of the time. I'm now doing one role 100% of the time, and I have other people delegated to the other areas of the business, and they are able to give their whole week, their whole focus to that one pillar in the company. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit more. The 5 pillars of profit is what I call it, and it's the 5 main areas of your business to make your business run but also be profitable. So I'm going to talk a bit about that in sort of later videos, but yeah, right now just celebrating the win of building a team, delegating roles, and actually by giving over control to my team, I'm actually gaining control of the business in return and its future, which is really, really exciting. So still early days, but I suspect in the next 2 to 3 weeks, especially over the next 30 days, as Luke sits in the sales and really just dominates that role, and I'm released more into just really thinking big picture, like new markets, new lead pools, new influence, new leads, and innovating, to make our whole business more efficient. I just know we're going to go to new levels. I know that over the next 5 months into the next financial year here in New Zealand, doubling the company again is going to be achievable. It'll be a stretch, but it's going to be achievable because of the work that we're putting in place. So yeah, that's kind of the observation this week. We continuing to grow organically, continuing to get referrals, continuing to get cold leads, and yeah, things are looking healthy. But yeah, hope you found that helpful. Like how always, if you found any of that intriguing, or you're confused by any of that, or you had questions, or maybe you felt that you've been through a season like this and you're ahead of me, and you want to just encourage me in the comments, put a comment below. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week.